Hey, what's up guys? Tougie here, back again, and we have another trade to discuss. Now, I'm not being a complete Bruins homer by wearing the jersey this time. I mean, I have enough stuff on the walls next to me, I do suppose. Although, I mean, I could, if I guess wanted to be a complete Bruins homer, I could wear this hat. What do you say? Should I wear this hat throughout the whole thing? Saw some family yesterday for my birthday. Didn't get to see some of them for Christmas. Got this gift yesterday. What do you say? Should we wear this? Should we do this? Anyway, I'm not making this video to try and change your mind about how you feel about this Rick Nash trade. Odds are you already have your mind made up when it comes to who, quote-unquote, won this deal. Whether the Bruins won because they finally made a bigger move than acquiring a guy like Drew Stafford or Lee Stempniak to help out offensively, whether or not you feel like the Rangers fleeced the Bruins, lucky for me, this video isn't about trying to change your mind. In all honesty, it's being made so that I don't have to answer the question on Twitch every 2 minutes about who I thought won the trade and how I feel about the trade. The rumors were there, especially on Saturday night after the aftermath of the clown show known as the NHL blowing another goaltender interference call. We were pretty much told to expect the trade to happen on Sunday, and lo and behold, here we are. It has happened. Rick Nash is a Boston Bruin, a surreal thing to say, considering, you know, for years, maybe going back to a decade ago, but for years, that would be the move I would make on NHL franchise mode. But the question is, did the Bruins win the trade? Well, if you've never heard me talk about trades, then allow me to save you some time. I'm not declaring a winner. I think it's ridiculous to try and declare a winner in any trade in the immediate aftermath of said deal. Nearly every trade has the chance to work out, whether or not it's this Rick Nash deal, say even the Bolig Grosnick to Nashville for a 6th trade that we also saw today. Hell, even the Alex Burrows trade to Ottawa had a chance to work out. It didn't. It really didn't. But the chance was there that it could have worked out. Have fun in the AHL, by the way. Alex Burrows, you deserve nothing better. Regardless, you get the point. Ryan Spooner, Ryan Lindgren, Matt Beleskey, a 1st this year and a 7th next year for Rick Nash. That is what we are here to discuss. I'm going to save talking about Spooner and Nash until the end of this breakdown. That's obviously the main comparison that a lot of people will be talking about. So let's go in reverse order, shall we? The 7th round pick next year. Now, obviously, it's a low risk for the Bruins. Odds are a 7th round pick is never going to make it anywhere close to the NHL level. But that said, the Rangers have found magic in the past. Obviously not concerned as a Bruins fan, though, with them giving up this pick. The 1st round selection this year for the Bruins, obviously they are aiming for that pick to be as low of a pick as possible. 31st would be ideal. In one of the articles discussing the trade on the Stanley Cup of Chowder website, they linked to an article on Sportsnet that talked about the diminishing value of 1st round picks as you go through the round. I'll leave a link in the description to both of those articles, by the way. I highly recommend you check them out. Giving up a 1st round pick for Rick Nash in 2018 might not sound like the best move on paper, but asking price is asking price. And unless it's a lottery pick, it's worth taking a risk on a 1st round pick if you believe you can contend. That said, for the Rangers, they have a 1st round pick in each of the first 3 rounds of the upcoming draft after the Nash, Grabner, and Holden trades, a fine way to kickstart their rebuild. Quickly talking about Matt Beleskey, and I wish I could say there was a real positive here. I can't, and that unfortunately kind of describes his tenure with the Bruins in general. The Bruins retain some salary with Beleskey. At the very least, they free up the contract spot, but for me, it's just sad to see how this went down. He signed for less than what people thought he was going to go for, and regardless, it still ended up being a pretty bad contract. Okay, maybe just calling the deal bad is being a little bit easy on the Bruins, okay? I can admit that. For the Rangers, he's on the books for the next 2 years with a $1.9 million cap hit. For a rebuilding team, they can afford the contract, and to be honest, he might not be that bad for them. He might be able to find a role on that team in the bottom 6, as they are going to need some veterans in there, along with the younger players that they'll be giving ice time to. Now, weirdly enough, it's almost more difficult for me to talk about Ryan Lindgren than it was for the 7th round pick. When you talk about draft picks, the term magic beans is thrown around a lot because obviously you just don't know what you're going to get. And with Ryan Lindgren, I mean, the jury's still out. He's 20 years old, a former 2nd round pick in 2016, but obviously there's still a lot of potential there, and Rangers fans are rightfully stoked about picking up Lindgren in this deal. That said, Bruins fans can and have used this argument as a counterpoint as to why it's not that big of a deal that Lindgren has been moved in this deal. That being that the Bruins have a decent amount of organizational depth when it comes to left-handed point shots already. And I do kind of agree with that. I feel like that's a safer argument than, say, the other argument you're seeing right now, which would be people bringing up his lack of point production at the NCAA level, which is just dumb, as if that's the end-all, be-all of whether or not a player's going to have a good NHL career. No, that's not how it works. If you don't believe me, ask George Hughes how his NHL career is going after leading the NCAA in point production among defensemen, not just in general. That would be ridiculous, and that would probably be a pretty good indication on how someone's going to be. But yeah, feel free to ask George Hughes how his NHL career is going. Bottom line, you would assume that Ryan Lindgren is going to be an NHL defenseman in the future. Whether or not he's top 4, third pairing, time will tell. But obviously, for the Rangers being in a rebuild, this is a good pickup for them. And now we get to the main event, talking about Ryan Spooner and Rick Nash. When it comes to Ryan Spooner and whether or not the Bruins should have traded him, I talked about counterpoints when it comes to Ryan Lindgren. When you want to talk about Ryan Spooner, it is nothing but point and counterpoint as to why the Bruins should have kept him or shouldn't have kept him. A reason as to why they should have kept him is point production's up. The counterpoint, his PDO is extremely high, as that Stanley Cup of Chowder article points out, meaning that he's more likely to be a little bit lucky this season as opposed to genuinely kind of making those improvements in his point production, being something that's going to stick moving forward. An argument as to why he should have stayed. He's an RFA at the end of the season. The counterpoint, there's really no guarantees that he would want to sign here, let alone what the asking price would have been to keep him. Another argument, you might have been able to move a different prospect and hold on to him. The counter argument, is Spooner really suited for a third-line role? He's not that strong defensively. The bottom six is already playing pretty well. And are you getting the most out of Ryan Spooner with him being in a bottom six role? Like I said, there's plenty of discussion, points and counterpoints as to whether or not the Bruins should have kept him, and as to whether or not Rick Nash is even an improvement, which, spoiler alert, he is. Rick Nash is the better all-around player, between the two. The similar point totals between the two over the last few years is being used as the ultimate, as Steve Dangle would say, oh yeah, kind of way to say the Bruins got fleeced here and that Rick Nash really isn't that big of an improvement. Which, to that point, on the opposite end of the coin, people can point to Alain Vigneault's system and how Rangers fans have been complaining that he can't coach his way out of a wet paper bag, and as a result, some players have been suffering, especially in terms of point production. Rick Nash being one of those players when they do play a defense-first counter-attacking system. So really, it's very similar to what I said in the Holden trade recap video. It's a wait and see for me. We'll see how Holden and Rick Nash can do outside of New York, outside of Alain Vigneault's system. The same system that Rangers fans have been saying just is awful, and that he's awful. But yet, when it comes to getting rid of a player who's done poorly in that system, it's like, oh no, it was just that player. He was bad. It had nothing to do with the system. You gotta make up your mind on that. And I'm not taking shots at Rangers fans. I'm just saying it seems like the same people who call out Alain Vigneault for being terrible are also the ones saying, oh, but the Bruins got fleeced here. It's like, well, make up your mind. Is it, I mean, in fairness, it can be both. It can be you think Rick Nash is bad and that Alain Vigneault is a bad coach. I'm just saying for me, and I don't know, maybe it's because I want to try and justify this deal and I'm trying to make up for the fact and defend Don Sweeney. Like, I don't know. I just want to see what Rick Nash can do in Boston. And guess what? That's good. That's a good thing. It's a good thing I feel that way because we're going to find out one way or another. The pressure is now very obviously on the Bruins to go out and deliver in the postseason. They finally went out and got someone who is viewed as more than just a bottom six addition. Whether or not they overspent, it really depends on the success or lack of success they end up having in the postseason. Now, obviously, while the Bruins aren't favorites, if you win the Cup, to hell with the consequences. You did what you had to do, and I'll take a Stanley Cup, and I'm sure they would as well, over having a Ryan Lindgren and a first-round pick, whoever that may well be. That said, if the Bruins are one and done in the playoffs, and Rick Nash goes, Ryan Spooner keeps up his production, Lindgren becomes a solid NHL defenseman, they hit on the first-round pick, it's a little bit more of a disastrous situation for the Bruins. And needless to say, at that point, yes, it would be a loss and the Rangers would undoubtedly win the trade. But like I said, there are still so many what-ifs, so many points and counterpoints to make that it would be ridiculous, in my opinion, to declare a winner at this point. But if you feel like you can, more power to you. The bottom line is, both teams got what they wanted with this trade. The Bruins got what they feel to be an improvement on their top 6. And in many ways, at least on paper, that seems to be more fact rather than feeling. The Rangers rebuild took another step forward. You do get Ryan Spooner, who has some proven point production. You get a solid prospect in Lindgren and a first-round pick, which who knows who that will end up being. Oh, and don't forget, you got Matt Pileski in a 7th, so there you go. If you're a Rangers fan, obviously you're right to be excited about this deal, but if you're a Bruins fan, you are also right to be excited about this trade. We'll see how it pans out, and at the very least for Bruins fans, take solace in this. If it doesn't work out with Rick Nash this year, at least Ryan Donato will be a Bruin next season, and he will be able to replace him and score 45 goals in his rookie year. That'll do it for this one, guys. I don't have too much more to add aside from saying I am intrigued to see what your reaction is to this trade. Let me know down in the comments below. Do you feel confident enough in declaring a winner to this deal? How do you think it's going to shape out for both sides? If you're a Rangers fan, even if you're not, how well do you think the Rangers did with this trade? Are you confident that the pieces that they have will work out? What do you think Ryan Spooner's contract is going to look like? And for the Bruins, with Rick Nash, how do you think that's going to go? Admittedly, I am recording this while the Bruins are playing the Sabres, and it's not going all that well. But I can kind of see the team being a little bit gassed after that extremely high-paced and entertaining Toronto game the previous night. And Anton Khudobin hasn't looked that great. So maybe the Bruins will panic before tomorrow's deadline, and they'll add Henrik Lundqvist. I'm kidding. Of course, how fucking weird would that be? Thinking it's weird to see Rick Nash in black and gold? My God. But anyway, like I said, let me know down in the comments below what you think of this trade. What do you think is going to happen before Monday's deadline? Are we due for a blockbuster sometime in the next 24 hours or so, a little bit under now? Is Erik Karlsson getting dealt? What about Ryan McDonagh? He's still there. Talking about the Rangers rebuild, McDonagh hasn't been moved yet. I'm hoping we're in store for a good deadline day, because oftentimes it ends up being a little bit disappointing. But to see someone like Rick Nash moved, which is still just weird to me, it's going to take some getting used to, even if he's not a Bruin for that long. He's a Bruin now. It's weird. I don't know. I thank you for watching the video. You know what you can do to support this video and my channel. Links in the description, of course, to my Twitter and Twitch. Give me a follow on them, both of those platforms if you haven't already. Also, check out the articles that I'll be linking in that description as well. Have a good one. Take it easy. I'll catch you next time. Goodbye.